Hola Eli, estamos esperando que Sophie se conecte. Estamos esperando que Sophie se conecte. Hola,
Hola,
¿cómo estás?
muy bien, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien, muy
Qué
bien.
bueno.
Ahorita me voy a dar un minutito más para comenzar. Tenemos conectados ahorita a Eliana desde Colombia. Hola Eliana, Clara, San Diego, Alex Lombroso, mi esposo desde abajo. Valerie López desde Los Ángeles. Hola, gracias por conectarse. ¿Me escuchan bien? Dina joined. Hi, Dina from San Diego. Hola. Vilma desde Colombia se está conectando. Hola, Vilma. Hola, Liana. Saida desde Texas. Hola, hola. All right. One more minute and we'll get started. See who else is connected. Felipe desde Colombia. Hola, gracias por conectarse. Creo que la mayoría hablan español.
Está
I think most of
bien.
us here speak Spanish. We'll try to do Spanish and English and French.
If you need to, it's fine too.
I'll practice my French. Okay. All right. Well, who else is online? One more minute. Okay. All right. I'll start in English and then I'll translate. Voy a empezar en inglés y luego ya lo hago en español también para que me entiendan. Well, hello everyone. I'm so excited you guys are here for today's Instagram Live. It's going to be a good one. My name is Angela Lombroso, and I'm the owner and creator of My Brain Buddies. I'm a TAA certified peer mentor, and I will be hosting this powerful interview today. We have been spotlighting Tourette syndrome this month, and today I get to chat with an amazing mom who's not only raising two super smart kids with Tourette syndrome, but has also been a very important part of the Tourette Syndrome Association of America, helping families all feel less alone. At My Brain Buddies, we're all about celebrating neurodiversity and creating comfort tools for kiddos to feel safe, seen, and loved. So these conversations are super close to our hearts. So grab your favorite plushie, cozy up, and let's dive in. Sophie and I met a year ago when my daughter got diagnosed with Tourette syndrome. I had no support around me because nobody knew what Tourette syndrome was. It was for sure a lonely journey until I found the Tourette Syndrome Association of America, and there I found weekly support groups. That's where I met Sophie. She was leading the Southern California online support group. We would meet every Tuesday, and Sophie gave me answers to my questions, support, and hope. She also helped me get certified as a peer mentor through the Tourette Syndrome Association of America. Okay, I'm going to do it in Spanish really quick. Voy a hacerlo en español para la gente que me está escuchando desde Colombia y de otras partes. Hola a todos, estoy súper emocionada de que estén aquí para esta transmisión en vivo por Instagram. Va a estar buenísima. Mi nombre es Ángela Lombroso, soy la dueña y creadora de My Brain Buddies. Estoy acreditada como mentora por la Asociación de Síndrome de Tourette de América y hoy estaré conduciendo esta poderosa entrevista. Este mes hemos estado destacando el síndrome de Tourette y hoy tengo el placer de conversar con una mamá increíble que está criando a dos niños súper inteligentes con síndrome de Tourette y además ha sido parte muy importante de la Asociación de Síndrome de Tourette de América, ayudando a que muchas familias se sientan menos solas. En mi Brain Buddy celebramos la neurodiversidad y creamos herramientas de confort para que los pequeños se sientan seguros, vistos y amados. Por eso estas conversaciones nos llegan al fondo de nuestro corazón. Sophie y yo nos conocimos hace un año cuando recibí el diagnóstico de mi hija y no tenía apoyo a mi alrededor, porque nadie sabía lo que era el síndrome de Tourette. Sin duda, fue un camino solitario hasta que encontré la Asociación Síndrome de Tourette de América, donde descubrí grupos de apoyo semanales. Allí conocí a Sophie, quien lideraba el grupo de apoyo en línea del sur de California. Nos reuníamos todos los martes y Sophie me brindó respuestas a mis preguntas, apoyo y esperanza. También me ayudó a obtener la certificación como mentora a través de la Asociación del Síndrome de Tourette de América. Así que, ¿listos? Agarren sus peluches favoritos, pónganse cómodos y vamos a comenzar. Empezamos. Déjame nada más ver quién más se conectó. Janice, hola, desde San Diego. Clara Blanco, desde San Diego. Marcela, hola. Creo que la mayoría hablamos español acá. Dina, you're still there? Okay, I'm going to try to do Spanish and English. Diana, desde Florida, hola. Vamos a tratar de hacer español e inglés. Gracias, Marcela, qué linda. Ok, pues comencemos con las preguntas.
Sí.
Hola, Sophie.
Hola.
Gracias por estar aquí hoy. Hi, Sophie. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. Gracias por tenerme aquí. Estoy muy excitada para eso. Va a estar muy poderoso. Es importante hacerlo en inglés y en español.
Claro que sí. Tenemos que educar a gente en Latinoamérica y pues también Estados Unidos, ¿no? Sobre este tema. Bueno, Sophie, pues comencemos. ¿Puedes contarnos un poco sobre ti y tu experiencia con la neurodiversidad?
Sí. ¿En inglés o en español?
Como quieras tú hacerlo. Comienza si quieres en español y luego traducimos. We'll do Spanish, a short version, and then we can do English.
Okay, muy bien, muy bien. Pues me llamo Sophie. Yo soy también, yo tengo autismo y tengo 2 niños que tienen síndrome de Tourette y otro neurodiversidad. Yo trabajé como coordinatriz de programa para la Asociación de la Tourette of America y ahora yo superviso un programa para adultos con disabilidad, también más adultos, como 120 adultos. Y hay unos que tienen el síndrome de Tourette también allá.
Ok. Es más común de lo que pensamos, ¿verdad?
Mucho más común.
Ok. Déjame lo hacemos en inglés también.
Yes.
Hi, let me see. Scott just joined. Hi, Scott from California. So we're going to do the same question in English.
Sure.
All right. So can you tell us a little bit about who you are and your background with neurodiversity?
Absolutely. I'm Sophie. I'm the mom of 2 incredible children who are neurodiverse and who have Tourette syndrome. I am neurodiverse myself. I grew up without knowing that I was neurodiverse, which is a very interesting way of growing up. I worked as a program coordinator for the Southern California chapter of the Tourette Association, and now I oversee a pathway program for adults with developmental disabilities. I have a master in public health. I'm also finishing my doctorate in public health and trying to juggle it all.
I don't know how you do it, but my respects to you. Awesome. All right, let's go into the next question. Can you tell us
Sure.
about your 2 kids and when you first noticed signs of Tourette syndrome?
Yes. So, so what is very interesting is a lot of times you would see signs of Tourette's, but you're not really sure that that's what it is. For my son, I think his symptoms showed up a lot early on, but it took us a while to really figure out what it was. Actually, it's my husband who found out what it is and pushed for us to go see a specialist, who then confirmed it. So even though I would say he showed symptoms around 6 or 7 years old, we didn't get a full-on diagnosis till he was 9 or 10. He's now almost 16, so time has passed. However, I still see the same kind of pattern where professionals tend to not really push for the diagnosis and take a while to understand really what it is or really give you a diagnosis at all. A lot of times you're told that it's anxiety or stress that's just, right? I'm sure everybody has heard this, and it's anxiety or stress that is causing this, and that it will go away. And it's just really heartbreaking, I think, for the children and for the parents to feel like it's something that's going to go away when really Tourette syndrome doesn't, right? For my daughter, it's a little bit different because her big brother was already an ambassador for the Tourette Syndrome Association. So when we started seeing some signs, right off the bat, we knew what it was. And we were already very well aware of what it was and what to do. So although she faces the same challenges, her environment was right away formed, and I think it helped a lot.
Okay, perfect. Okay, let's do a short version in Spanish.
Yes.
¿Puedes hablarnos de tus dos hijos y cuando notaste por primera vez las señales del síndrome de Tourette?
Sí, sí. Mi hijo fue diagnosticado como a los 9, 10 años, aunque los síntomas, pienso, empezaron antes. Nos tomó bastante tiempo para darnos cuenta de lo que era. Mi esposo es lo que descubrió y fue confirmado por un neurólogo a través también de la Asociación de Tourette of America, que me ayudó a encontrar personas y soporte para saber lo que era y qué hacer. Mi hijo ahora es ambasador para la Asociación de Tourette. Y yo pienso que entre el momento de tener síntomas hasta tener un diagnóstico fue como 2 o 3 años mínimo. Para mi hija, que es más joven, para ella era diferente, porque pues cuando los síntomas empezaron, sabíamos lo que era. Entonces, tener este conocimiento de lo que es el síndrome de Tourette cambia todo, porque cuando ya empieza no hay este sentimiento de pánico. ¿Qué es eso? ¿Qué voy a hacer? ¿Por qué está haciendo estos movimientos? Y con mi hijo, por ejemplo, cuando él empezó, estábamos siempre diciendo, ya, para, pero no sabíamos que él no podía controlarlo. Con mi hija era diferente, sabíamos que teníamos que ignorar, entonces no decíamos nada. Yo pienso que por eso son los mismos problemas, me lo han vivido a la misma edad de una manera muy diferente.
Okay, okay. So what was the diagnosis process for your family? What was it like for your family?
So the diagnosis process was a little bit frustrating, honestly. It took time, it took persistence, a lot of advocating. I'm sure everyone who has a child with Tourette syndrome or tic disorders really is very familiar with that part. There's moments where you are dismissed or told that you just have to wait and see. We had to do a lot of research. We had to push for a lot of evaluation. Um, it really is a struggle, and it takes a long time. Again, like I was saying, a lot of times kids with Tourette's or with tic disorders are told that tics are going to go away as they age. That really, it increases with stress, with hormones, and then it goes away. But it really isn't true. Tourette's never goes away. Tourette's is a developmental disorder. It comes as the brain develops, and it's here to stay. I think over time, individuals just learn how to cope with it better and to tame it better. And unfortunately, a lot of professionals still today believe that it's going to disappear, which is why I really feel that the TAA's role in bringing resources and platforms like yours are really important, because we really get to spread the word, especially on Tourette's Awareness Month.
Right.
And raise that awareness and explain to people what it is, and that although it is challenging, it does not define our children. It's a diagnosis. So we really have to keep that in mind always.
I love that. I love that. All right, real quick in Spanish. ¿Cómo fue el
Yes.
proceso de diagnóstico para tu familia?
Fue un poco frustrante, sinceramente. Requirió mucho tiempo, persistencia y mucha perseverancia, como cada padre que tiene un niño con el síndrome de Tourette. Pienso que tiene el mismo problema, que tiene que siempre luchar para tener una respuesta. Había momentos que nos ignoraron, nos dijeron que, esperamos a ver si se le pasa. Eso es algo que viene con el estrés, no es nada más. Y a los niños muy frecuentemente se le dice que los tics van a desaparecieran con la edad, que están causados por el estrés o la ansiedad. Y aunque los estrés lo pueden empeorar, y la adolescencia también, con las hormonas, el síndrome de Tourette no desaparece. Y todavía hay muchas profesionales que dicen que va a desaparecer, aunque no es la verdad. Por eso que es muy importante tener asociación con la asociación de Tourette o con tu plataforma aquí, donde podemos hablar de eso y enseñar a la gente lo que es un diagnóstico, es algo, sí, que viene con problemas, no es la definición del niño, es una parte del niño nada más.
Me encanta. Gracias, gracias. Entonces, ¿cómo puedes decir que cambió este diagnóstico a tu familia? How did your families change after this diagnosis? Did anything change?
Yes, I think it did because we had a name, we had language for what it was, and really knowledge is power.
Yeah.
It came with a set of challenges because you have now to know that, and you know what it is. You have to navigate your school system. You have to navigate the reaction of your families. You have to adapt, right? You have to adjust. You have to adjust how you parent. You have to adjust how you're going to advocate for your child. You have to start worrying about the future, right? What am I going to do? How are they going to do in life? How are they going to have friends? But again, I always say this, but it's really important. Knowledge is power. And the one thing to remember is, I just said that, but one of my friends said this to me once, and I never forgot it. A diagnosis is just a diagnosis. It's nothing else. It's not your child. Your child is the same child that was there before you had that diagnosis. It's just helping you figure out what to do. But it
How you can
does not.
support them.
Yes, exactly. It does not define your child. We can't just box them up and give them that definition because of a diagnosis. It's really according to the individual. Every child is different. Every TS is different. Every tick is different. The way they're going to tick, the way they're going to react. Every Tourette syndrome symptom is different. Kind of the same way when you get a book, right? When you have a newborn, you have these books that tell you how to raise your child. And you find out that no, nobody can tell you how to raise your child. You just have to find it out for yourself.
Right.
It's the exact same thing.
Yeah,
it's the exact same thing.
I love that. Absolutely love that. And I feel like you said knowledge is power. And for us in particular, when we get the diagnosis, it was very important for me to, as a family, try to understand, to better support our daughter and for her to, embrace it and not define herself, but just kind of understand and embrace it, and this is who she is. Her brain is extra special. So let's try to do this in Spanish.
Yes.
¿Cómo cambió la vida de tu familia después del diagnóstico?
Pues el diagnóstico trajo alivio un poquito, y porque ahora tenemos un lenguaje, un nombre para poner sobre el diagnóstico. También más problemas también, ¿verdad? Para el sistema escolar, como creer a los niños, cómo defendernos, cómo presentarlo a la familia. El conocimiento es poder. Una amiga mía me dijo un día que un diagnóstico es solo eso, un diagnóstico, nada más. Nuestros hijos siguen siendo nuestros hijos, no han cambiado. A veces, cuando necesitamos un diagnóstico y que lo tenemos, miramos a los hijos con ojos diferentes. Y tenemos que cambiar eso, es la misma persona. Es como cuando uno tiene un bebé nuevo y que abre este libro que te dice, no, que cada 2 horas tiene que comer, no es así, es por individual. Uno después se da cuenta que un niño se cree con sus papás de una manera única, es la misma cosa.
Sí, así es, 100%. Bueno, now let's go back to English. What are some of the biggest challenges your kids face day to day?
There's several ones. Social stigma is one of them. People still misunderstand what Tourette syndrome is. Executive function challenges, sensory issues, anxieties. I think what we could say is that Tourette syndrome and tic disorders usually bring their friends along, right? OCD, autism, ADHD, anxiety, all these co-occurring conditions. And I think that's the real challenge, is that oftentimes we're faced with a soup of different diagnoses that we have to deal with, and each one requires a different medication treatment approach. So which one are you going to pick? Because sometimes you're trying to treat one, and then the other one now gets exacerbated. So it's very difficult. And when you think about it, how we have to navigate today's society, right, through a lot of systemic inequities, um, from racism or lack of income, right, that with or without Tourette we would have to face. And now you add to this Tourette syndrome, tic disorders, and all of their buddies. And now you tell your children, well, on top of all of this, now you also have to deal with all this. So it's really difficult. It's something I think we have to take day per day. You can't tackle it all at once. And you have to find ways to help your child at school to stay focused, while they have to count 30 times, 9 times to 20, tap a certain way on the paper, and try to kind of fight for them in IEP meetings in schools to make people understand that even though they don't see anything, there's a lot going on.
Yep.
And I would say maybe that's the real challenge, is what you see really is the tip of that iceberg, right? I'm sure everyone has seen, right, the iceberg pictures you posted on your Instagram.
Right.
And that's really true. There's so much more going on than what you see. And after working at the TAA, I've heard a lot of different stories. After parenting 2 children, still parenting 2 children with TS, I'm sure I don't even scratch the surface, because I'm never going to be in their shoes. So really, what we have to do is listen to your child. They know best. They know what works. They know what doesn't work. And I think that would be the first step.
100%. And we have some questions here. Let's see. Dina is asking, were the schools cooperative? In my experience, when I brought it up to my first graders teacher, she's never experienced a case with Tourette syndrome in her classroom. So the information was completely new to her, which to me was insane, because it's a very common, diagnosis. Is it 1 out of, 163 or 1 out of 30? 130 kids have Tourette syndrome, but yet the teachers and society don't know about it, don't know what it is, don't know how to help. So to me, when I got the diagnosis, again, going back to my introduction, I definitely felt alone, because none of my friends, family members, nobody knew what it was or what it supports. So here I am finding the information, and I go to the school hoping that the school psychologist or the teacher has had a case that can help. And literally they were like, no, like, bring us any information that you have. So in that sense, in my particular case, they were not helpful. But what about for you, Sophie? Anything you can say about the schools?
It's extremely rare, but it does happen that the schools are cooperative and help. A lot of times, even if they come from a good intention, for example, for my daughter's school, I wanted to do a presentation, and they said, oh no, we don't want to bring attention to it. We think it will single her out. Their intention was really a good one. For my son, it was very difficult. Again, I think what I hear the most is they don't see it. So if they don't see it, it mustn't happen. And I think that's the biggest challenge. Again, a parent doesn't want to be in an IEP meeting. We don't want to. I don't want to be in an IEP meeting. I don't want to be fighting for things. I would rather not have an IEP. And I think that's the problem. A lot of times we find ourselves fighting for accommodations, for services in schools, when really we would rather not be there.
Right.
So yes, the school can be understanding, but I do think that we still have to be the squeaky wheel, and really, even if they are, we need to bring resources, because a lot of times they do not know all of the information. There's so much going on. And yes, so the data, so for Tourette syndrome, yes, but for tic disorders, it's 1 out of 50 children. So remember, then usually Tourette syndrome is the tics start happening around 8-9 years old. So we're talking 3rd, 4th grade. That's really when it kind of expands, and we start seeing a lot more of it. And for it to be diagnosed with Tourette syndrome, you need to have a motor tic and a verbal tic for more than 1 year. Up until then, you just have a tic disorder. So if you think about it, 1 out of 50 children with a tic disorders, I'm pretty sure the data for Tourette syndrome of 1 out of 160 way more than this. A lot of times it's underdiagnosed. A lot of times people kids that have autism are diagnosed with autism, and we think that all of it is just stimming, when in fact it could be a tic. So I really think that there's a lot more than that. And when you think about it, even just 1 out of 50, right? So a regular small school, let's say, has 2 class per grade, elementary school, we're talking 10 kids minimum, right? That's a lot. That's a lot. So really, when you think autism is 1 out of 68, I think, or something like this, or 1 in 30, I forgot if it's 1 out of 36 or 1 out of 68, but it's really similar. We address autism a lot. It is covered by a lot of the insurance services, but Tourette syndrome, we're still waiting. So it's good. It's good that we talk about this today.
Definitely. Okay. And I want to go back later to the IEP and the 504, because that's something it's completely new to me, but we'll go back to that. Let's try to do a Spanish quick version of that. ¿Cuáles son algunos de los mayores desafíos que enfrentan tus hijos en el día a día?
Yo pienso primero es el estigma social. Especialmente en la cultura latina, muy difícil hablar de un desarrollo, de un trastorno de desarrollo que empieza en el cerebro cuando un niño está creciendo. Muchas veces en la cultura latina todavía tenemos este estigma, y hablar que uno tiene un niño con un problema se ve a veces se ve mal, y es muy difícil explicarlo. Yo pienso que eso es un problema. También el síndrome de Tourette siempre viene acompañado, ¿verdad? Viene con sus amigos. El TOC, el autismo, ¿cómo se dice en español? TDAH, la
ansiedad,
depresión.
Eso.
Sí, y todo eso es lo más difícil, porque es como una sopa. Es como un sancocho, ¿verdad? Que tiene el autismo aquí tenemos la ansiedad, el trastorno de tic y todo. ¿Cómo vamos a tratar todo eso? ¿Cómo vamos a ayudar a este niño con todos estos problemas? Es muy difícil como padres de ver eso, saber lo que se tiene que hacer, especialmente cuando a veces tenemos miedo de decirlo o no podemos tener el apoyo que necesitamos. Entonces, en una lucha, disculpa, perdí mi oído. Es una lucha, lo voy a hacer, también es un poder porque tener este conocimiento nos puede ayudar a nosotros, a nuestra familia, para ayudar a este niño mucho más. También más luchas por las escuelas y las reuniones de IEP, cuando a veces en las escuelas es muy difícil también luchar porque no ven lo que nosotros vemos. El niño va a la escuela y trata de contener todo, entonces los trastornos, los tics, los movimientos no se ven tanto. Cuando regresan de la escuela, ¿verdad? Regresan a la casa y ya, todo empieza a sacarse muy fuerte, y las maestras dicen, pues aquí no veo nada. Sí. Y es muy difícil eso también, es como el iceberg, ¿verdad? La imagen del iceberg, que lo que se ve es un poquito encima, pero hay tanto adentro, tanto que no se ve qué está pasando, aunque nosotros mismos no podemos ver todo como padres.
Así es. Bueno, gracias. Going back to English.
Yes.
So how do you support your kids emotionally and socially?
So what we do really is communication, a lot of communication, daily check-ins, and we also normalized neurodiversity. Neurodiversity is really not a big deal in our house. It's just part of who we are. We talk about fears, nightmares. We welcome the quirks. We celebrate the differences. Although we know social life can be difficult for them outside of the house. Bullying is definitely something that I'm very familiar with, that we had to navigate through. And that creates a lot of trauma. When you get the call that your child's been hit because it's different, or that your child is being told that they're not going to be playing with these friends because they told her, oh, you're different. We don't want you to play with us, right? You're not invited to birthdays, you're not invited to play dates. It's hard. But so even if at home you try to be supportive, the pain is there. But unfortunately, any child with any type of neurodiversity is going to have to face this. It's really sad, especially when being inclusive is really not that hard. All you need is to accept it the way they are. I mean, you don't have to change them. You just have to keep the door open, the same way you would open the door for a child in a wheelchair because it's hard for them to go through. It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not that difficult.
Yeah.
It really isn't.
Yep, definitely. Okay, let's do it in Spanish now.
Yes.
¿Cómo apoyas a tus hijos emocional y socialmente?
Pues tenemos muchas conversaciones diarias. Y también lo que hacemos es que normalizamos la neurodiversidad. En nuestra casa es normal estar en neurodiversidad. Entonces, hablamos de miedos, de pesadillas y celebramos las cosas, las rarezas, las diferencias que tenemos. Sabemos que la vida social de nuestros niños es difícil. Que la escuela, ¿cómo se dice el bullying en español? No sé, ¿verdad?
Bullying.
Que el bullying es real y
Sí.
que deja trauma, que están reales también. Tener una llamada diciendo que su hijo le golpearon por ser diferente, o que tu hija no va a poder estar invitada a los cumpleaños, a los playdates, que regresan a la casa diciendo que no querían jugar conmigo porque dicen que estoy diferente. Es muy difícil, eso es muy difícil. Y como es tan fácil de estar inclusivo, de aceptar a un niño por su mismo. Es como uno abre la puerta a un niño que sea en silla de rueda, es la misma cosa, dejar la puerta abierta y aceptarlos como son.
Así es. Okay, gracias. Now, has your approach to parenting changed since their diagnosis? If so, how?
Absolutely. I think the most important thing is we went from trying to fix it or correct it to really just listening. Our parenting really centers on empowerment, self-awareness, helping them build tools to be self-advocate of their own differences. Although that's hard, because sometimes I still do, we try to not feel sorry, but to find the humor, the joke, and just celebrate what they are and the incredible qualities that they have, because they're not just Tourette syndrome. Actually, children with Tourette syndrome, and that's proven scientifically, I'd have to find the research, but I have it saved somewhere. Children with Tourette syndrome are actually extremely bright, which is probably the reason why it's so difficult for them, because they are very self-aware of what is happening with their bodies and around them and their social lives.
Yep, they are. I agree with you. They're extremely, extremely smart. Okay, so let's switch back to Spanish really quick.
Yes.
¿Tu forma de criar ha cambiado desde el diagnóstico y cómo ha cambiado?
Sí, cambió totalmente. Pasé de intentar corregir a escuchar. Y mi forma de criar se enfoca en empoderarlos y para su autoconocimientos y ayudarles a desarrollarse para defenderse. es difícil como padres, probamos de no sentir lástima para ellos y tratar de encontrar el humor, reírnos, especialmente en nuestra cultura, en mi familia, porque yo soy francesa, por eso que tengo un acento un poco. Mi, mi esposo es ecuatoriano, puertorriqueño, entonces riamos mucho, hay mucho humor. Yo pienso que en la cultura latina eso es esencial,
Sí,
así que luchamos todo, ¿verdad?
sí.
So, hacemos eso. Y también celebrar las calidades de nuestros niños, porque eso es científicamente probado, que los niños que tienen el síndrome de Tourette están muy brillantes. Y por eso pienso que también están muy conscientes de lo que ocurre en su cuerpo y en su vida social.
100%, 100%. Okay. All right, back to English.
Yes.
Are there any strategies or tools that have really helped your kids regulate or express themselves?
Yes, a lot. I think it really depends also on how old they are and how your kids react to it. So, of course, when they were little, we used a lot of sensory things because it was really about self-regulation and emotional expression, and also the way you define and explain, right? We don't say, oh, you have a problem, but we would say, your brain's just a little different, but really everybody's different, right? And that's kind of powerful to be unique. And then there's tools that help them, like therapies, like CBIT, cognitive behavioral interaction for tics, other therapies, medications, and just time, really. At first, you feel a little bombarded, right? What do we do? Do we medicate? Do we do this? Do we do that? It's so overwhelming.
It is.
And you really have to find what the right thing is for your child, because your child is unique.
Right.
So what worked, although my children are so similar, so many ways. I mean, their tics are almost the same. It's ridiculous. But the way a parent one doesn't work with the other one.
Right.
I have to approach it in a very different way. And I think that's all it is. It's just listening. Again, listening to them. Because sometimes also you might be recommended to have a medication.
Right.
But maybe your child doesn't want to have medication. Maybe you're against medication. So you also have to go with who you are as a family and what your values are and what you want and how you want to approach it, what feels right. So it's really difficult because it's a puzzle. You have to put all these pieces together and it has to fit you. Again, you don't want to box people up. It's not one size fit all. But I would say CBIT and therapy doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. It can only help you.
Yeah, 100%. Well, if I can share a little personal story. So when my daughter got diagnosed, I go to the doctor's office and he gives me the diagnosis, and then I ask him, so what's next? And he literally says to me, he's like, you're on your own. There's nothing out there that we can do for your daughter, your family. So I'm like, how is this possible? I did like his approach. I asked him for medication, if there's anything out there, and he definitely said, he's like, I don't recommend it. She's 6 years old. I don't recommend medication because the second you take her off the medication, it'll go back to the same or worse. So if it's not interrupting her day-to-day life, sports, schools, there's no need for that. So that was my particular case and experience. So then I go home and I'm like, well, Google it is. So where do I start? And like you said, it's very overwhelming when, there's a lot of information, but yet it's not one size fits all. So here I was, joining the Tourette Syndrome Association of America, trying to find answers and support groups. I'm part of all the Facebook groups too. I'm always asking questions. So I think like as a parent, as a mom, of a neurodivergent kid, you're trying to do, like you said, what's best for your child and your family. But it can be overwhelming at times. It can be a lonely journey as well, because there's not enough information out there. Or actually, there is information, but it can be confusing. And I don't know, in my experience, it was a very lonely journey. This past year has been ups and downs, a roller coaster of emotions, lots of crying, lots of questions. But I think we're finally in a good place where we accept what we have. Like you said, it doesn't define the child. It's just we're extra special. And in this household, like my husband was commenting, we're all a little crazy in this household. And he's like, we're crazy in this household. Yes, we are, you know.
That's the way you have to live life. I agree with you. I think that it's a child is very unique, and it's not one size fits all. And a lot of times, because I see someone says, I'm surprised it didn't give you any resources. I think it's also difficult because you do not want to push anything onto a family that just got diagnosed, because at first you kind of have to almost grieve the idea of your child that you had for the future, and accept the fact that it's never going to be the way you planned. And that's hard. As a mother, it's very difficult because you picture everything. I mean, I'm sure, right? You're like me. I picture everything. So we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then all of a sudden, all of this falls apart. And now you have to build it according to your child with a completely different view on things. And I think really the first step is to get these resources. For me, I went to the TAA. They have so much resources, a lot of support groups that are available where you can meet people like you, where sometimes your child can meet other children like them. And knowing that you're not alone is half the battle. Really. Because after that, you know that, okay, others have been through the same path. Now I can ask questions, I can see and see what makes sense for me.
And for me, finding you and finding our Tuesday meetings was life-changing. I just didn't feel alone. You know, we will do weekly check-ins. How was your week? And I could finally like talk about it with somebody who understands what we go through when we have a child with Tourette syndrome. So again, thank you for that. You helped me not feel alone in this journey and find the resources that I needed.
Oh, you're more than welcome. I miss it. I still miss it.
We miss
you. I really, really, really enjoyed it. I think I learned as much as you did.
Thank you. All right, let's try to do this in Spanish really quick. So, ¿hay alguna estrategia o herramienta que haya ayudado a tus hijos a regularse o expresarse mejor?
Sí. Yo pienso que cuando fueron chiquitos era diferente porque todavía no sabíamos lo que tenían. Podíamos ver que eran un poquito más hiperactivos o un poco diferente, ¿verdad? So, era más una manera de presentar esta diferencia, no como ¿cómo se dice? Un déficit, no como menos que, más decir, tu cerebro funciona diferente. Y eso es poderoso, ser único. Hay solo uno como tú, ¿verdad? Y eso, la manera de mirar las cosas, es como decir, es la misma mesa, mas tenemos una silla diferente, ¿verdad? Entonces tenemos que verlo así. Y también cambia según la edad. La forma que hablo del síndrome de Tourette con mi hija es diferente de la manera que hablo con mi hijo. Y también pienso que otras ayudas como terapia de CBET, a veces medicamentos o no. La Asociación de Tourette Syndrome también tiene muchas informaciones allá. Y el tiempo para aprender quién es mi hijo, mi hija, cómo se siente, es lo que trabaja para mí, para nuestra familia, para nuestra cultura, qué es lo que queremos hacer nosotros como familia.
100%, sí. Y como estamos diciendo en inglés, que puede ser también un camino solitario. Cuando vas bueno, en mi caso personal, mi historia personal, cuando voy con el doctor, el neurólogo especialista, me da el diagnóstico de mi hija y le digo, bueno, ¿qué sigue? ¿Qué medicamento? ¿Qué terapia? Literalmente sus palabras fueron, mucha suerte, investiga, no hay medicamento que le recomienda a tu hija que tiene 6 años y no hay una terapia que te pueda decir 100% funciona, pero pues tú puedes intentar lo que tú quieras, ¿no? Entonces, es un camino que estás como padre, te acaban de dar un diagnóstico, pero no hay realmente suficiente investigación, no hay medicamento que te ayude, entonces dices, bueno, empiezas a buscar de aquí y allá a todas partes y llega un momento que yo sentía que mi cabeza se reventaba con tanta información y quería
Sí.
hacerlo todo al tiempo. eh, pero pues tocaba paso por paso, ¿no? Y luego me topaba con alguna pared y bueno, poco a poco ir investigando. Ha sido un año bastante fuerte a mí, para mí en lo personal. Muchos días de llorar, de incertidumbre, de estar confundida. Como dices, tú tienes sueños, tienes ideas de lo que tu vida va a ser, el futuro tuyo, de tus hijos va a ser, y te llega un diagnóstico y dices, ok, está bien, ya lo acepto, hoy por hoy lo acepto y digo, bueno, las cosas son diferentes. Eh, es una niña brillante, mis dos hijas son brillantes, son hermosas, son muy inteligentes, pero como dices tú, es diferentes maneras de cómo vamos a llevar la vida, cómo vamos a ser padres para ellos. Y bueno, son muy inteligentes, como habíamos dicho. Entonces, pues es eso, poder apoyar y encontrar la manera de cómo apoyarlas emocionalmente y socialmente en este camino de la vida.
Sí, es como decirse, ok, ahora tengo que dejar esta imagen que tenía yo de mis hijos, que cómo van a estar. Tenemos
Así
que
es,
dejar eso y aceptar que va a estar diferente,
así
que
es.
vamos a luchar juntos. Y a veces como padres es muy difícil aceptar eso, porque para uno significa fallecer. Um,
Fallecimiento, como la muerte, como la... sí, bueno, se me fue.
fallar.
Dímelo en francés, para entenderte.
No es tan negativo, es solo
Sí,
que tenemos que aceptar las diferencias, como ellos lo tienen que aceptar.
así es, así es.
And also, I wanted to answer. I saw someone that was asking what the first symptoms were. And it really is different for everyone, but I think we all share a similar kind of story where at first the little grunts and the little sound that we can hear. I know I took my child to the allergist thinking that he had allergies and he wouldn't stop sniffling. And later on, I found out that it's 24/7 Tourette's allergy and not allergies. So really the symptoms are different. Everybody's different. Some children start with very severe tics right off the bat. Um, my son sniffled and my daughter was kind of going like this a little bit. And it's very, very different. But as a parent, I feel like you know that something's up.
You do. Yeah. In my case, for my daughter, it was a verbal one. So she would be screaming out of nowhere for no reason, very loud too. And then also like the eye twitching or eye blinking and things like that, like moving the arm, jumping. So you start noticing these patterns. And it was like all day, every single day. So in my case, those were the symptoms where I'm like, okay, I need to get this checked out because it wasn't just like we thought it was just a bad habit, you know, when the kids go to school and they like catch, you know, they're blinking. We're like, okay, they just caught that at school. It's a new habit. And that's what we thought at first. But then it kept, you know, progressing. And every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it would change to a different,
Yeah.
you know, tick. So that's when, you know, we took action and, you know, took it to the specialist and we got a proper diagnosis. Okay. All right, so let's go back. What would you say to a parent whose child was just diagnosed with Tourette syndrome?
So the first thing I would say is you are not alone. You are not alone. It feels like you are because a lot of times when this diagnosis comes, you feel like you've never heard from it, you've never heard about it, you don't know, um, but you are not alone. And then it doesn't define who the child is. We really have to be patient and understand that a diagnosis does not define our
Right.
children. In today's society, sometimes I feel like parents are eager to almost looking forward to having a diagnosis. A diagnosis is important for you to find the reason why and understand that there are things that they can't help. They will not be able to control everything because their brain are just sending those signals saying, hey, you got to move, you got to say things, you got to make sound, you got to jump, you got to do this. So we can't tell them to stop because they can't. But that's all it is. Really, it's just a tool for understanding what that is. Um, And so I would say you're not alone. We're all in the same, we all living it. Platforms like this one, communities like support groups through the Tourette's Association of America are there. Be patient, trust your child, and understand that their differences are just part of their brilliance, of their intelligence, of the incredible things that they're going to be able to do later in life. And that those little quirks and those little differences are just part of the whole child. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the tics. Don't be afraid of Tourette syndrome. I was scared, very, very scared. And I think that's the first reaction that you get as a parent, right? We're scared of it. Don't be afraid of it. Don't let them be everything. And learn to just ignore it and explain to your children that they are not broken. They're not broken. You don't have to fix anything.
Yeah.
A lot of times as parents, that's the first thing we want to do. But they're not broken. They just need to understand how their brains work.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. All right, let's try that in Spanish.
Yes,
¿Qué
try it in Spanish.
¿Qué le dirías a una madre o padre cuyo hijo acaba de ser diagnosticado con síndrome de Tourette?
Que no están solos. No están solos. Que este diagnóstico no define a tu hijo o a tu hija. Es solo una manera de entenderlo mejor. Que tener una comunidad como la Asociación de Tourette o como una plataforma, no sé cómo decir eso.
Plataforma.
Plataforma como esa, donde puede encontrar a gente que tiene trastornos, te ayudará y tener paciencia y recordarse que las diferencias que tus hijos tienen están parte de su brillancia, de su brillo, que no los define, que son una parte del niño entero, y de no tener miedo, porque yo cuando tuve este diagnóstico para mis hijos, o hasta el mío, cuando tuve mi diagnóstico de autismo, tuve muchísimo miedo y no quería hablar de eso. Pero no tenemos que tener miedo porque eso no es la definición de quién estamos. No necesitamos corregirlos. No estamos quebrados. Estamos diferentes, no quebrados.
Me encanta. Gracias. Okay. Back to English.
Yes.
What are some of the common misconceptions about Tourette syndrome you wish more people understood? Oh, this is a good one.
Yes, there's so many. Coprolalia.
Uh-huh.
I think would be the first thing that comes to mind,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Tourette syndrome is not just swearing. It's really just 10-15% of people who have Tourette syndrome. That most tics are usually subtle. Actually, I would say at least half of them, you don't even know that they're happening, because your child may just be, I mean, I'll tell you what my children do. Some do things in their throat. My son sometimes has throat tics. You can't hear it, but it hurts him so badly that sometimes he can't talk, he can't even move. My daughter has to count a certain amount of time, and I'm talking 116 times 13, things like that. But you don't see it, so people think nothing's going on. Or you'll see them, move their shoulders, doing this with their toes or things like that. If you're not paying attention, you might not see it. So I think that Tourette's is extremely misunderstood. And unfortunately, a lot of times people make fun of it. I'm great that this show came up on TLC, right? Where we can really see Bailey express and show what that's like. But it must be so difficult for her, right? But it's an amazing advocacy. But that again shows that Tourette's is a lot more complicated and more complex than what you think it is. It's not just a child swearing things. It could be animal sounds. It could be skin picking. It could be so many things, and it comes and it goes. So when someone says, "Oh, he used to do this, but he's not doing that anymore," that doesn't mean they're not having a different tick. Ticks come and go, and it's really, really difficult. And so I wish people understood that, and that people were a little bit more inclusive and a little bit more, have a little bit more compassion for people who have Tourette syndrome, especially children, because they're struggling and they're young and they have to struggle with the same things that every children has to struggle with, but they have a little extra, and that's a lot. That's a lot. So be compassionate, people.
Yeah, I like that. And especially, like you were saying, there's always, tics in our case, in our family. My daughter always has a tic. So it could be a verbal one, it can be a physical one, but there's always a tic, 24 hours. And even sometimes when she's sleeping, I can see her body twitching too. So it's 24 hours, 7 days a week. So like you said, the teachers say, well, I don't hear anything, I don't see anything. But when I go to the classroom, I'm like, she's definitely taken right now. It's not a verbal one, but she's doing the eye, so she's doing something. So it's a 24-hour constant, situation for them. But that's the other thing that people think is just like, oh, she's not doing anything right now. Are you sure she has Tourette syndrome?
Right? Like, try to have a conversation when someone's cutting you off 24/7 and go back to what you were saying. That's what these children are doing 24/7. They have someone that's cutting them off, making them lose their train of thought, and they have to go back to it all the time. Do you know how exhausting that is? That they're trying to hold their tics in. It hurts. It physically hurts for them to keep them in. But sometimes they try their best to hold them in because they know people are going to make fun of them. So then they get home and they can't even sleep because now all these tics have to come. Yeah. It's a lot harder than people think.
Yeah. And I remember you and I talking in one of our Tuesday meetings where it was just a rough day. As soon as I picked up my daughter from school, she just let all the tics, like literally the second she got in the car, it was super loud. And I happened to not be feeling good that day. I had a headache. I'm like, oh my God, when is this going to stop? I literally had to step away. And we had a conversation, and you basically made me see the whole situation. You told me, I will never forget, that I'm her safe space. So at school, she's trying to contain all those tics, but the second she sees me, her safe person, her safe space, she lets all of them go. So that changed my perception of things. And so now it still happens. As soon as she gets in the car, I'm like, so I just have to breathe, and I have to make sure I'm in a good space the second she gets in the car, because you just don't know where you're going to get as soon as she enters a car or she sees me.
That's very important for a child to have that, to know that there's a place where they can be themselves. Yeah. That's rare. Yeah. That's rare. And I see it in my work every day. A lot of people do not have that space, and it's a struggle. So giving them that as a parent is really a blessing.
Yeah, and it is difficult, but I feel like it's important. I found myself in the Tourette Syndrome Association of America, finding what it was and the support that I needed, and talking to you every Tuesday. Because before that, I thought she was calling for attention, and it would literally get on my nerves, and I just didn't know how to handle it. But now understanding and seeing her point of view in a different perspective, it just changed everything for me. And now I'm, able to support her in a better way at home.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it in Spanish.
Yes, let's do it in Spanish.
Okay. ¿Cuáles son algunos de los conceptos erróneos más comunes sobre el síndrome de Tourette que desearías que más personas comprendieran?
Yo pienso que sería la manera que Tourette es mucho más complicado que lo que uno piensa. Que no es solo el coprolalia, que los niños gritan unas palabras malas. Es mucho, mucho más que eso. Que a veces no es porque no vemos nada que no hay nada. Y que estos niños tienen que crecer como cualquier niño. Con las luchas de un niño que está creciendo en la escuela, aprender a tener amigos, aprender cosas a la escuela, mas también tiene todas estas cosas que viene con el síndrome de Tourette, que tiene que contar no sé cuántas veces. Para mis hijos uno tiene que contar hasta 163 3 veces y así. Uno a veces va a tener que hacer los ojos así. Es como tener una conversación y con alguien que siempre viene en tu conversación, apaga lo que te estás diciendo, preguntándote algo, y tú tienes que retroceder y ponerte otra vez, enfocarte en la conversación, en lo que ellos hacen 24 horas al día, cada día. Es muy difícil, mucho más difícil que uno puede imaginarse. Y están cansados, al fin del día están cansados, tienen dolor, porque movimientos así no son movimientos natural, duele, a veces duele. Y a veces a la escuela lo que hacen es que prueban de guardar este movimiento, de hacerlo lo menos posible. Y entonces, como estábamos hablando, regresan de la escuela, entran en el carro y ya, todos los movimientos, los sonidos salen de a una vez. Y es muy difícil para los padres, es muy difícil
Sí,
para ellos.
sí. Así es. Y yo, pues antes de tener la información y tener el diagnóstico de mi hija, pues no sabía qué estaba pasando, ¿no? Entonces es muy fácil perder la paciencia cuando tu hijo te está gritando y gritando y gritando y tú piensas que nomás se está portando mal, quiere atención. Y para mí, un día que recuerdo específicamente, no me sentía bien, me dolía la cabeza. Llega mi hija de la escuela, de todo el día de estar conteniendo estos tics nerviosos y llego yo de recoger la escuela, abre la puerta. El segundo que abre la puerta del carro, se sube y empieza a gritar con toda la fuerza. Y ese día pues no fue nada bueno porque les digo que me dolía la cabeza y no me sentía bien. Y justo era un martes, que me juntaba los martes a las 6 de la tarde con Sophie, que me daba apoyo, y le comenté esto. Y le dije, hoy fue un día muy malo, perdí la paciencia, quería gritar, salir corriendo, llorar, no sabía cómo ayudarla. Y me cambió la perspectiva. Me dice, tú eres la zona de confort, la zona, sí, ¿no? Zona de confort, safe zone, de tu hija. Entonces, piensa que en la escuela ella está conteniendo todos estos tics y el momento que te ve, ya está en su zona, sí, en su zona de confort, ¿no? Entonces, por eso ella suelta esos
Sí.
sonidos, esos movimientos, esos gritos. Me cambió la perspectiva. Entonces, ya me aseguro de antes de ir a recoger a mi hija a la escuela, respirar, haber comido para no estar de malas, si puedo tomar una siesta para estar al 100% presente para poder apoyarla de otra manera que antes no sabía yo, ¿no? Yo llegaba cansada, con hambre y pues no ayuda a la situación. Entonces, muy importante la información y compartir esta información para padres que quizás están pasando por lo mismo y pierden la paciencia, como yo admito que lo hice. Y todavía de repente pierdo la paciencia, pero trato de controlarme, salir, respirar aire y regresar.
Estamos humanos, ¿sabes? Estamos humanos, no podemos estar perfectos tampoco.
Así es. Así es. Bueno, let's go back to English.
Yes.
How can people be more supportive and inclusive, especially kids and educators?
I think listen first, learn, model inclusion. Um, don't make a big deal out of the tics. And if you're a teacher, accept the resources that parents will come to bring you. Don't say no. Do the presentation in your classroom. Do it. The Tourette's Association has all kinds of ambassadors, just like my son coming can go to your classroom. They have been trained. They've spoken to senators and congressmen about Tourette's. They know what it is. They're living it, and they literally have found a sense of purpose in this to come and teach others about it. Do the presentation. Say yes. Talk about it, and be inclusive. Take a note when you see that a child is excluded. Don't just say, "Oh, I'm not in the yard, so I haven't seen it."
Yeah.
Don't say that. Be involved, and show them that you care. It makes all the difference, even if the results are not going to be changed much, because you can't force children to be inclusive. You can't force parents to invite you to the birthday parties, right? But knowing that your child's teacher was vouching for them and really tried and had this conversation with them can make all the difference in the child's life.
Thank you. Let me read the comments. Dina says, good question. Thank you, Dina. Annie says, bravo, son un ejemplo a seguir. Gracias, Annie. Qué linda. Gracias por estar acá. Thank you, Dina, for being here. Okay, let's try that in Spanish.
Yes.
¿Cómo pueden las personas ser más inclusivas y solidarias, especialmente los niños y los educadores?
Primero escuchen y aprenden y modelar inclusión. Que no que no hacen un escándalo por los tics o las diferencias. Y aceptar la ayuda de los padres cuando vienen como preguntar por una presentación en la clase sobre los tics. Tenemos a la Asociación de Tourette de América, tienen embajadores que especialmente vienen para enseñar a los niños y a los educadores lo que es el síndrome de Tourette, lo que se tiene que hacer. Y normalizar diferencias.
Sí. Okay, perfecto. Muchas gracias. Okay, we're almost done. What has surprised or inspired you the most about your kids' journey?
Their resilience. They keep showing up. Life is hard. They have challenges that I've never had, but they're still showing up, and they still find ways to become who they are and be creative and have so much empathy for others.
Yeah.
So that's what inspired me the most. I mean, I could go on and on, but
Yeah.
they're my children, so of course they're perfect.
I have that experience, especially we moved our daughter to a new school, and this is prior to getting the diagnosis. That didn't go so well, like making new friends, new school, new environments, and especially like the social part for her has been a little tough. And so when she comes home and tells me that sometimes kids don't want to play with her, breaks my heart. I'm in tears. She's probably watching this, but I don't let her see me broken down because it hurts as a mom. When your child, tells you these things, it really hurts and breaks her heart. But the way she like manages, and she says, it's fine, it's okay. I don't need, like, I'm good. I can make other friends. So I played with a different person. I'm like, wow, like that.
Right?
She's
so much
teaching me.
stronger than we are. Yes. There's so much.
Here I am all broken
stronger.
down and crying, and she's like, no big deal, Mom, like move on, it's fine. So that has been our experience here. So I'm definitely learning a lot from both of my girls too. Let me see, we have a question. Mariana dice, mi hija ha estado teniendo muchos tics cada vez